Describing humanity and our existence as a clot of blood, deaf, blind, and unknowing may appear particularly cynical and cheerless. Yet Jesus himself speaks of people's hearts having grown dull, without perception, without understanding, lost and forlorn. He gives us a short list of things that happen in our lives that lead to the state of joyless confusion, raging like rats in a shallow maze: tribulations, persecution, and the deceitfulness of riches. In the parlance of modern psychology, we might talk of this as living in bubbles of illusions, seeking always confirmation of our bias, confirmation of our prejudice. Perhaps there really is a very large hole in the bucket when I argue that I think, therefore I am. Most of us think of ourselves as being in control of our own thought processes, and that our minds are in fact the most private and intimate domains of the center of who we are, our separate and totally individual character. When I pay close attention, however, I become conscious of my awareness, an observer of those thoughts that I associate with my being. Thoughts coming and going, but I'm not my thoughts. Events and thoughts come into my awareness, and I classify and store what is necessary. This isn't that. This is, and this isn't, useful to me. These memories of moments of now are stored in different places. A bit over here, classified as an emotion. A bit over there, classified as a warning. And a bit somewhere else, classified as good to eat. That is why our memories, like computers, are so unreliable, so open to manipulation. We look for evidence that will validate our paradigm and miss that which is, becoming captured in my own little bubble of illusion. From this I also listen without hearing, in order to impose my particular commentary on my perceived reality. A recent BBC program, Being Human, showed how the introduction of a stranger into a class reunion became an accepted and shared memory as soon as one of the class recalled the presence of this person in their class. As soon as 2 or 3 of the class became committed to this false belief, the rest of the group fell into step, and the illusion became an accepted reality. We make the same kind of commitment to our perceived memories. This is why it's so difficult to move beyond the groupthink that seeks to stifle and subjugate those who would expose these illusions. In 2015, I attended a workshop in Wellington, run by Anna Breitenbach, who is a professional interspecies communicator, an animal activist, and a conservationist. This communication with creation takes the form of projecting mental images rather than words, but must always begin by standing in a place of humility, without any intention of manipulation. Any aim which is formed by personal motives or achievement will block any communication. We stand on holy ground purely as listeners and observers. Although it is possible to project mental images of certain outcomes based on certain actions, the most common form of communication only requires an open presence to the other. Through this, we are allowed into the experience of the other. Interpretation and judgment of this experience must be put aside, as this blocks the raw experience of the moment that connects me to the other in the now of God. Acquiring this skill assists not only in prayer and meditation, but also in the practice of relating to others, truly aware of the other, listening, hearing, seeing. Always when I have chosen an interpretation, I am committed to a particular understanding of reality that predicts certain outcomes, and this in turn blocks my awareness, my hearing and my vision. Inevitably, this leads to a rigid, cold heart. Even when we find ourselves attending to the present, we may discover that what our minds churn out is fairly worthless. Most of us are constantly making instantaneous judgments about what we experience. This is, this isn't, over and over again, judging and classifying. As we allow these trains of thought to continue, we find them leading to other thoughts and judgments that do not have any real substance, any real value. No, we are not ordinarily in control of our minds, despite what we may think. We can't turn them off, and we can't always make them do what we want. Judgments, thoughts, and emotions seem to arise unbidden and often unwelcome. Since mindfulness is the skill of opening ourselves to reality without judgment, it is important that we approach the practice of meditation in this spirit, relinquishing preconceptions and expectations about any discipline. It is also essential to provide a spiritual and physical context conducive to meditation. Mindlessness comes at a very high cost. Living with a mind that we don't know very well, that is often out of control and semi-conscious much of the time, causes us and others to suffer greatly, probably far more than we realize. Whatever an enemy might do to an enemy, or a foe to a foe, the ill-directed mind can do you even worse. Is it any wonder that we so frequently attempt to silence or to alter our minds with drugs, amusements, sex, retail therapy, and all the other forms of distraction? Fortunately, most of us don't reach that mind-driven point of total despair, but we nonetheless endure the consequences of immensely powerful but unruly mind. We find ourselves entertaining thoughts that serve no wholesome value in our lives. We make snap judgments about individuals based on the slimmest and most trivial of evidence. We spin out falsehoods that we ourselves come to believe. We're constantly comparing ourselves to others, a practice that inevitably leads to pain. All of this and more drives us to lead frenzied lives, often on the verge of misery. Mindfulness is the power of heightened awareness and sensitivity to ourselves and to our world. A sense of dissatisfaction, of which we are more or less conscious at different times in our lives, impels us to find something, anything, to bring relief. Unfortunately, our minds have been conditioned to seek solutions to its torment in the most unhelpful ways. The beliefs that compel us to keep looking somewhere else for something to bring us relief are so common that we rarely consider that it might be time to try another approach. Rather than seeking happiness through the usual ineffective and counterproductive means, there is a different way. It is possible to cultivate a wholesome mind that will produce thoughts that contribute to our well-being and the well-being of all creation. We can shape our mental functions in ways that will remove the frantic, driven, distracted, semi-conscious qualities of our lives. But it is not an easy journey. When our illusions are exposed and refuted, we are freed of our cold and rigid hearts. Finding something wonderful and new emerging, our being is reborn, nurtured, and ever expanding in a language that uses essence as its lover, rather than the acid mind of control and manipulation. The Lord grant you peace.